it's coming.
Take it from hello.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Blue Sky Podcast. I'm Adeel.
And I'm Jono.
And thank you for joining us. So the Blue Sky Podcast. Why is it called the Blue Sky Podcast, Jono?
That's a great question that I'm excited for you to answer.
All right, well, I'll tell you why. The Blue Sky Podcast is called, besides the fact that it just sounds like a great name for a podcast, the Blue Sky is the stage of the writing process where you get to have unlimited creative freedom and just throw shit at the wall. It's my favorite part of the process. It's the part where you get to let your imagination run and think up of ideas. And eventually, as you're writing, you obviously sculpt. It's like sculpting a statue.
A statue works. A column, perhaps a bowl, a vase, an intricate tool that just kind of sits on a shelf. That's what I'm here for.
So yeah, but as you get to sculpting, you kind of have to start not limiting your imagination, but you got to start being more specific. But in the beginning, it's whatever you want. And that's my favorite part of the process because of that.
And that's what this podcast is about. Because on a day-to-day, Adeel and I both direct TV commercials, and those are very short pieces of writing that are very constrained by time, resources, and budget. And the idea with this podcast is to give ourselves a reason to be accountable to longer form things that we both really want to do and explore, and not be limited by budgets or not be limited by, client asks, God love them. It's literally throwing whatever we want at the wall and then taking those ideas and sort of forming them into a script in real time.
Yeah, as of right now, we plan to write short film scripts. We'll see if that changes or if we, change our mind down the road. But yeah, we're going to create short film scripts. And of course, as much as we want to just throw shit at the wall, you can't do that unless you have something to begin with. And we would like to call that a prompt. So what we did was, before we started filming today, we basically took a bowl and we took a piece of paper, and then we each wrote 5 genres, film genres, anything from rom-com to thriller, and we put them into the bowl. I don't know what Jono wrote down. Jono doesn't know what I wrote down. And the next part is going to be basically Jono picking something out of the bowl.
And when the sacred bowl decides our fate, we're going to adhere to that. We're going to unpack the genre, and we're going to write a 3 to 5 page script. And that's going to happen every single episode. So we're going to walk away with this with a pile of weird, cool, bad, interesting scripts. And hopefully you can listen along and riff with us and tell us what you think, and maybe it'll jar your own writing inspiration. So let's go to the prompt.
The prompt.
Okay, so we wrote random genres. I don't know what he wrote. He doesn't know what I wrote, but we're going to pick one, and then we're going to write a short script.
I'm just going to blindly do it so I don't inadvertently grab one of mine. Oh, I did grab one of mine.
I can tell by the way it's folded because my folding is so bad.
Okay.
You're almost like, I wish I didn't write this.
Yeah, so I wrote slapstick comedy.
Okay.
But we could just do comedy. And if it becomes slapstick, that's cool.
Okay, cool. So okay, how about this? Start with, what's slapstick comedy to you? Well, give me some movies.
Slapstick comedy is like Airplane. It's
Dumb and Dumber?
Dumb and Dumber, 100%. Like Farrelly Brothers canon.
Okay.
Wet Hot American Summer, David Wayne canon.
If you Google it, Jackass, of course, Three Stooges.
Jackass.
Yeah, because it's like...
I guess that's like slap dick comedy.
Exactly. That's a whole genre on its own. That's a good point.
Yeah.
There's the Benchwarmers, totally.
Benchwarmers.
Nacho Libre.
Yeah, Jack Black,
Yeah. Paul Blart what is it? Paul
Blart Mall Cop?
Yeah, so many L's.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Joe Dirt.
I mean, it's basically
It's
all
not
the
Jim
fucking
Carrey.
movies that Jim Carrey was in, and Rob Schneider, and...
Me, Myself, and Irene, Mr. Deeds. Yeah, okay.
I mean, yeah.
It's balls to the wall comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's very fucking... Okay, cool.
It's extremely strange logic, but all the characters look at that logic as if that is their everyday. They don't balk at it. They're not like, this is weird that my gun is a fish now. It's like, my gun is a fucking fish, and the person who's got the fish pointed at them is terrified.
Can I read the definition?
Yes.
Why do they call it slapstick comedy? The term arises from a device developed for use in the broad physical comedy style known as I don't want to read that. That's like fucking 16th century. As commedia dell'arte in 16th century Italy. That's where it started from. That's insane.
Oh, okay. So let me try that again. Can you bring the bowl out?
Oh.
Okay. We are going to do Commedia dell'arte.
Yeah, because exactly. That's what we're doing. And if you guys don't know what that means, losers.
Neither do we.
It means slapstick comedy. Someone didn't take comedy in university. The slapstick consists of two thin. Okay, they're literally defining. That's hilarious. Okay, the more layman definition: the slapstick is a style of humor involving exaggerated physical activity that exceeds the boundaries of normal physical comedy. Slapstick may involve both intentional violence and violence by mishap, often resulting from inept use of props such as saws and ladders. Okay, so that's like maybe back in the day, like fucking like Three Stooges is a great example. Like literally, that's what my mind goes to. Three Stooges.
Yeah.
But the I would say the modern take on slapstick comedy is like Me, Myself, and Irene comes to mind because there is like you said, there's crazy shit, bonkers shit happening, but it's like. You're just digesting and the characters are just living those lives, not being like, oh, what? How'd this happen? This guy fell out of a train and didn't die?
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're just allowing it.
Exactly. And like Jim Carrey obviously is a pretty floppy, goofy character, but like if you think of Leslie Nielsen, for example, he's just like a guy. He's just so deadpan.
Yeah. This is the blue sky part.
So maybe we take that slapstick comedy suggestion, and much like, when we're doing improv, we get and then we kind of do whatever the fuck we want with it.
100%.
We look at that and we think about, okay, what's like a really grounded situation that we could sort of make slapstick, like this comedy of errors that cascades into something that could be slapstick but could still be grounded. I'm
trying to think, what if I'm trying to be meta about it. I'm like, what if it's about someone like, okay, this is like the bad version of the idea.
Okay.
But what if it's like those like films like Freaky Friday or whatever, where like you wake up and you're in a world and you're like, what happened? It's a guy who wakes up in a world where everyone is doing slapstick comedy kind of thing.
Right. Like everyone's just carrying around a jug of water and like icy stairs. Yeah.
So like a little bit of that maybe, But like, again, that's a jumping off point, but it's like, I like the meta-ness of like someone being like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, like Stranger Than Fiction, but he's in there's just like a fucking Looney Tunes Acme laden trap world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or is it a school for slapstick comedy? It's like School of Rock, or like, it's like Patch Adams is the movie where it's like.
Yeah, I think that's a movie about a clown comforting terminally ill children. How do we make that slapstick? He squirts them in the face with a little.
Please, mister.
I have 4 hours to live. And Robin Williams is like, I'm a hot dog.
Oh,
I'll make it quick then. That could be that. And again, this is blue sky, so I don't mean to shut it down, but like. All I think about is like if it becomes a teaching scene, as long as we can stay away from like the like, here's how you learn, how's there you be a slapstick. There's a banana peel here, you step on it.
Yeah.
Like it could be a different way. Or like what do those students do during break? Like, is it a scene during break? And
you want to make it really like a weird, like dodgeball level kind of. Oh, dodgeball's a great slapstick.
Yeah, it is.
What if it's like a kid who goes to like slapstick academy, but he wants to be a drama actor. So it's like he goes in and like it starts maybe during a scene like the teacher's teaching something and it's like how to fucking take a pie to the face or some shit, some stupid shit. Something better than that. But then it's like you said, that's a great point, like a break, or like they go outside during recess or whatever, and the kid has this like moment of like, can I tell you guys something? I don't want to be a slapstick comedian. Like, it's like this kind of moment. Or like the dad is like wants him to get into slapstick comedy, and then he's like, I don't want to be like you, Dad. I want to be Shakespeare.
I want to be a CPA.
Oh, yeah, count. Yeah.
I like that.
Like he wants to be a real actor.
The fish out of water. But like, is there a sort of slapstick equivalent to being a real actor that he would prefer to be? Because the dramatic actor is always like, I don't want to call it low hanging fruit, but like. That's what every actor like wants to be serious.
Yeah. You're saying like if he doesn't want to be slapstick comic, does he want to be a different type of comic? You mean?
A different type of comic, or does he maybe I think pulling it out into plumber or something like that might be too broad, but like, could he?
Yeah, because I was gonna say like CPA thing or like that's I think it's hilarious, but for a short, I think it's too much of a.
It's
You have to kind of stay in the realm of acting or something.
okay.
I
Yeah.
think at least.
So yeah. Well, maybe what's the event that made him or her or they turn their or change their mind, and what's the turn in decision they make to go off to dramatic academy or
That's the thing with shorts. You can find one moment in time or like this 1 week of his life or whatever, and really just pump out like a arc, right?
for sure.
It's like it could be the film starts with him going to an audition maybe, and they're like, "Oh, you're here. Well, we're not doing."
When you go to theater schools and stuff, I think there are different streams. I didn't go to theater school, but I had a lot of friends who did, so my friends might be like screaming at the thing. Just joking, they're not listening. So imagine you go to audition and you're like, I want to be like in the drama stream, but something happens that's very funny and slapstick, and you get thrown into the slapstick world. So you like you didn't get into the drama stream, so you're now in slapstick stream, and all of a sudden you're carrying around jugs of water, and you're like, I just want to be normal.
Okay, yeah. So you're saying the reverse, where he started in drama, because we were saying he's slapstick and he wants to quit to go to drama. You're saying he starts in drama and then
kind of gets put into slapstick, maybe discovers that he's really good at it, or like unintentionally
but
good
he's upset
at
because
it.
he's never done the one thing he always wanted to
But
do.
there's always that thing. There's always that one sort of thing in the back of your head.
Again, now to make it more interesting, like I don't want to just do like a very linear
Yeah.
storytelling. What if it's like either he's on his deathbed, starts off, it's fucking Citizen Kane, or it's or
Slapstick.
was that Rosebud? Yeah. Or that's great. Or it's like he gets an Oscar or he gets some kind of award, and then backstage he's like thinking back to his life and how he fell into it. You know what I mean? Like
How he literally fell into it.
The framing device is what's important to me, where it's like it shouldn't just be linear of like, hey, I want to be drama and I'm this. It's like, what can we? Okay, so we like the idea. Comfort wise, does he start slapstick and then the twist is he wants to get into drama, or the fact that he's done slapstick his whole life and he's looking back like, man, I really wanted to do drama.
I think that's it. Like finding the moment outside of the moment, right?
Yeah.
And like you could do some flashbacks or whatever, but is he on his deathbed and had this supremely successful slapstick career, but did want to do drama, and he did do like one regional drama play once, and that's all he talks about. He's like, oh, when I was in Peterborough at the whatever local arts theater, I played Hamlet, and I blah blah blah. And someone wants to give him an award for that play just to like kind of appease him at his entry into the next plane of existence. But then something happens, like the bottom falls off the trophy, or like it slips out of his hand, or it's too slippery. I don't know. Another thing we should kind of maybe caveat here is you're going to hear a lot of bad ideas, and I'm not going to censor them. And so
no, you just there's no censoring. You got to throw all the ideas. I feel like we've thrown so much shit. That's why we're even getting close to like something right now.
Yeah. What could happen that's funny to a dramatic actor?
Well, it's like
becomes slapstick?
Well, the question is the movie a tragedy? You know, because it's like, because if it's a tragedy, then it's like he does slapstick is economics to him, and he does economics for his whole life, or like slapstick, and then he's like, but my true love was drama, you know?
Yeah.
Like he whatever, or is this like a fun, like happy Little Miss Sunshine film where it's like he gets into slapstick and he's like, oh, this was my true calling, making people laugh. So that's the question.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What do we like more? Do we want to make a dark, which is so funny that the genre you picked a slapstick and we're considering making it a dark fucking thing. I love it.
Well, I feel like everything I do, I always end up having a dark lilt to it because I have that in me for some reason. I just find in some cases, not all cases, but bad things tend to be more funny, or they heighten it, or you're just like, they tickle you in a more visceral place because you're like, I do not want to be where this guy is right now, but I can't look away.
Okay, you want to write something dark then? What if
it doesn't have to be dark, but like there always could be.
Like tragedy.
Yeah.
We don't have to actually, but here's a pitch. Here's a blue sky pitch. What if it's about a guy, slapstick, killing it, He didn't want to get into stuff, but he got in. Blah blah blah. Then he go. The film maybe starts with his like the film. Oh, I love it. Like Tropic Thunder. How
Yes.
there's like it starts with promos or whatever. So this short starts with like a montage, a reel of his slapstick scenes. So his career almost,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So you see a bunch of like, you know how like Jack Black, Mr. the farting thing, whatever.
Yeah.
In Tropic Thunder, where it's
Yeah.
it's like trailers of his films. It's like maybe 4 or 5 little montage of the scenes of in this montage, and then it cuts to even posters of like his life, and it's like all these hit, and they're like we have to think of the cheesiest. It's like not to shit on any of these, but Nutty Professor, for example, like that title even is so funny. So it's like Professor Fallington or whatever. Like the blockbuster hits that he's made in his career.
Yeah.
And then and these posters are on his agent's wall, and as we pan over, his agent's sitting there, and our character walks in, or he's already sitting there, and he goes, the agent's like, all right, what's our character's name?
Let's call him Hector.
Okay, Hector, you've been dodging it, but we need an answer. Are we doing the 4th installment of fucking Slippery's? I don't know, some funny name of a film. Professor Fallington. I don't fucking know. And he goes, okay, I want to talk to you about something else, actually. And he pulls out a script that he's been working on.
Yeah. It's a tattered fucking manuscript.
Yeah, but it's like he's like, I wrote it, and he goes,
It's tabbed.
and he goes, you wrote what? I wrote my next project. And he looks it over, and it's like a really dramatic title. It's like The Rise of Hitler. It's like dark. He wants to make a biopic on Hitler or something, and it's like The Rise of Adolf. And he's like, well, is this, I don't know if we can do a comedy, like it's, oh, you want to do a satirical comedy? I don't know. He's like, no, it's not a comedy. He goes, what do you mean? It's like,
it takes place in the darkest times of World War II.
Yeah.
In the bunker. This is Hitler's last moments.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And it's a play. It's a Broadway even. It's like
it's a one-man show.
It's a one-man show.
It's 2 nights.
And I think if we do it well, we can then turn it into a film.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, cool. Yeah, I can set up some meetings with some of the for if we can produce this and talk to some of the guys on my roster. And he goes, no. I want to play Adolf.
Yeah.
And he goes, you like how could you? And there's like this awkwardness. Now I don't know where this goes, but I like that as an opening.
Yeah.
It's like, making me laugh, man.
Maybe it's just we do a scene for this one because it's the sort of prompt is a bit nebulous, but
well, the tragedy though to me is that he doesn't get taken seriously, right? So is it like, do we do a scene, or do we take it to the point where the agent's like, yeah, we'll do this, and then
yeah, I guess because if it's just that scene, where does it land?
What's the ending of it? Like I'd like to see him get rejected somehow harder than he expected.
Yeah, or he goes on stage and it's super dramatic for the first beat, and then like he slips. He slips and it tears his uniform, and like people are just laughing at him. Yeah,
I love it. No, and that's what the short is, because it's like that scene. No, but what happens is he says, like, he pitches it to him, the agent, and we're recording the audio, right?
Oh shit! No, yeah, we are.
Because I've done that before. That's why.
Oh no, I've done it too. I've recorded entire records without the red light.
So yeah, the first scene, he goes in. So yeah, that's what it is. He goes to his agent, pitches the whole fucking idea, right? Or like how I kind of said it, where it's like awkward, cringy, and blah blah blah. And the agent's like, "You can't." Like that. The thing with this short, and what I'm trying to get better at too with writing, is like, it's like within the page and a half, we're already at, you're not doing this, so let's move on. We're not doing this whole back and forth dialogue for too long, right?
Yeah.
He says no, and the actor goes, "What the fuck do you mean? You know who I'm the reason you have this office." And he goes on this whole thing, and he's like, "You know what? Fuck you. You're fired. I'm gonna make it on my own." So then it's like either a montage or a whatever of like him, literally like it's like newspaper articles being like
spinning newspaper.
Yeah. Hector, whatever, finances the thing on his own. Costs him $20 million.
Yeah, spends last dime on dramatic project.
Yeah, so he does a thing and gets a director to be a part of it, and the director, and then we cut to the director being like, "I don't see it. Fuck you, you're fired." Like he can fire people, and he's like, "I'm gonna direct it." So it's like it's more and more and more. You know, and then he's like, and then he goes to the this is too much, but it could work if we're doing like dark but exaggerated comedy with just slapstick. It's like then it cuts to like the venue owner, he's like, I don't know if people would buy tickets. Fuck you! I'm gonna make my own venue, and then that's where the money goes. He makes his own venue, and then more and more it gets worse and worse and worse. And then we cut to something that doesn't even belong, where it's like at a restaurant. He's like, so we're out of the lobster. Fuck you! I'm gonna go somewhere else. So it's like his personality is just getting more and more like fucked up. And then it cuts to opening night.
Yeah.
And it's again spinning newspaper opening night and all this shit. And you see like the Broadway, like the outside, like mast, whatever it's called. And it's like Hector thing in what's the name of the thing? The Rise of Adolf or the Fall of Adolf or whatever. And then it's a spotlight on him. And I love the ending has to be him going on stage.
Slipping.
Yeah, he goes into this moment and then it happens. And then you hear like a little chuckle in the audience. And another one. And he looks up, and then because he basically, maybe he goes all into slapstick just to, because no one's like caring until then. He sees people like falling asleep and shit, so then he brings his slapstick chops out.
Or if like he maybe like slapstick is so ingrained in his being that he does that scene. He does this like there's like a beat of like holy fuck, he's doing it. He sounds like Adolf, and he's clearly in a bunker, and I might be able to watch this for 2 nights on Broadway. But then he does something innocuous like slips and it tears his pants a little, or he falls, and then there's this beat of like silence, chuckles. He gets up, he's fucking mad, but then just starts like he's so livid and just like so frustrated from tanking his life to do this. He's knocking shit over and like plants are falling. You know what I mean? Like he could be.
Is his motivation? Rage. So you're saying that he almost got away with it? Like he was almost about to do a great performance.
Yeah, he proves us wrong for a second, and then something, some act of God happens where he slips. It becomes laughter. He's like berating the audience, but while he's doing that, he's slipping and falling and like perfect. Like the set seems almost tailor-made for a slapstick Schadenfreude, like the cascade events or whatever.
Or like the wall falls there.
Yeah, and and like the wall comes down and he like the window like perfectly like lands on him or whatever, like a Buster Keaton Western thing.
Yeah. And the window goes right through him.
And
whatever.
It's just all that shit, and then like people are laughing and dying, and he's like very, very genuinely mad at them, but then at the end he gets this uproarious applause,
and then slowly the whole crowd roars and gets up, and then the last maybe the frame of the whole film is like another newspaper thing, and it's like Hector scores with slapstick Hitler comedy.
Yeah. Hector makes Hitler cool again.
Oh. That's funny.
I'm gonna change that to Hector makes Hitler funny.
That's funny.
Because why would I say cool again?
That is pretty funny though. Because what's the newspaper, like whoever wrote that? What is he?
Yeah.
What's he referring to?
Yeah. That's like the character, not me.
Yeah, the character who wrote the newspaper article like makes him cool again. It's like, wait, what do you mean again? First of all.
Yeah. There's also a funny image came to me like of like that sort of shot that's become way too iconic of the behind the person. It's like the wrestler shot. I think was like Aronofsky used it really, and then everyone started fucking doing it.
I actually used it for a commercial.
Having him, I mean, we can do it, but everyone else can't.
They're copycats. We're original.
Exactly. We're referential.
We're being inspired. That's what we're doing.
But like a shot of him, like, it's from behind him, and we see a rim light from the stage lights, and the crowd is just roaring, and they're cheering. People are crying. But then just after a beat, like maybe the stand collapses, and everyone just falls in. I don't know why I thought that.
You know what I was gonna say? This is dark, and I love this personally, but I don't know if we can do this. So roaring, everyone gets up, get the behind the scene shot, and it's like this moment, and then the newspaper happens, right? And then we see him put the newspaper down, so he was reading it, right? Like Hector scores again with slapstick comedy, and it's like the slapstick is like big letters, like he's still a slapstick actor.
Yeah, and slapstick's like more capitalized than
and he can't
else.
Get out of it, right? Yeah. So then he like you see him put it down, and he walks out of frame, and then all you hear is a gunshot.
Yeah,
he killed himself.
Yeah,
because he can't get out of slapstick.
Yep,
I love it. And it also mirrors Hitler, because Hitler killed him.
It does. Oh, yeah. I guess we're committing to his story being about Hitler.
Yeah, I think we really are a little bit, which it's kind of.
But it's. I think it's in the realm of the slapstick world. I thought it'd be funny too with that scene that you just described. If he's reading the thing and he takes a sip of his coffee and like he has that beat of like, ugh, and he takes a sip. And then just the bottom falls out of the coffee, and the coffee pours onto his lap, and he's like, ugh.
That's his life
right
now.
And then he walks into the bathroom and kills himself.
Because even that personal moment is slapstick.
Yeah. Yeah. But I wish there was like, I think it's funnier if he kills himself off camera.
Yeah.
But there is something maybe to mine about like him failing at that too. It just becomes another slapstick scene. But I think, or maybe when he's on stage and he's having the tirade, like yelling at the people for not taking him seriously, he is flailing and ruining, everything's falling down like that obstacle course that seems tailor-made somehow in retrospect. But maybe he does attempt a suicide even, you know, like he's like, fuck it, like I'm just gonna fucking do it, and he fails at that in front of everyone, and it
which is
even funnier.
What they think is like he's being funny still. Hitler failed at committing suicide or whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think what we should do first is come up with a real actor's name, someone that's not Hector, something that makes this guy on paper look like he would be a.
We could do like an homage to someone, right? Like Jim Carrey or like Adam Sandler, but like make it sound like that, but it's not.
James Cameron.
James Cameron. Why does that sound good? Oh, James Cameron. That's why. I'm like, sounds like I've heard that. James Cameron. I kind of like that.
Yeah, James Cameron.
Like 2 first names?
Yeah.
Like K-A-R. Are you thinking K-R-A-R-E-N?
I was just thinking C-A-R-R-O-N just as a Carey thing, but that spelling is not overly important to me. Or
I like James Cameron with a K because it's J-K.
J-K. Oh, there you go.
James Cameron.
My name is James Cameron.
Like a very dramatic, serious actor, but he's not.
And now, the rise and fall of Adolf. Montage. We see a montage of scenes and trailers showcasing the hit movies and illustrious career of our main character, world-renowned slapstick actor James Cameron. Interior, agent's office. A decorated wall of blockbuster posters featuring James Cameron and various slapstick characters. Films like Dr. Nuts, Dr. Nuts the sequel, It Just Got Nuttier, Dr. Nuts 3, Extra Nuts, Dr. Nuts the animated series, and Dr. Nuts Masterclass, How to Be Nuts. Paul Dump, 38, sits behind a desk framed by these posters. James Cameron sits across from him.
What's that, Paramount? Oh yeah, you know it. Okay, Paramount. He's actually sitting right across from me. Yeah. Oh, he looks great. You know what, Paramount? That's just crazy enough to work. Bye, Paramount.
He slams the phone down.
Guess who that was?
A beat of silence. Paul Dump raises his eyebrows enticingly.
Paramount.
James rolls his eyes.
They're ready to pull the trigger on Dr. Nuts 5. Anna Faris is already attached to play your twin sister. They're already talking action figures.
James sighs and drops a hefty manuscript on the table with a loud thunk. This will be my next project. Paul's posture droops.
James, not this again.
Paul Dump slaps a bobblehead of Dr. Nuts on the table, and it wobbles.
We can't have you...
I am done with Dr. Nuts. It's time for me to do something real. There's so much more to me than slapstick.
But you're so good at it.
Good at what? Good at slipping in puddles of water? At dropping vases? That my ice cubes are so heavy they break through the bottom of the glass? That every door I touch, the doorknob just slides right out?
Yes, all of that.
James gets up, furious. I'm doing this play, Paul.
Well, I will have no part of this.
Then I'll do it myself. You're fired! James storms out. The camera slowly pushes into the script on the desk. Insert of the title page. The Rise and Fall of Adolf. James comes in and grabs the script out of frame. Cut to montage. 1. A spinning newspaper with the headline, James Cameron flushes the dump agency after decades of partnership. 2. James with a costume designer at a sewing machine. James hands them an unsewn Nazi armband. The costumer shakes their head, no. Then, I'll do it myself. You're fired! 3. James with a potential venue owner.
I don't think anyone's gonna buy tickets to this, man.
Then I'll do it myself. You're fired! 4. James with a contractor.
Sir, we've been working for 3 days with no food or drink. Can we please see our families?
Sure.
Really?
No, I'll do it myself. You're fired! 5. A final spinning newspaper headline. James Cameron spends entire fortune on dramatic one-man play. Learns new trades. Exterior theater night. The rise and fall of Adolf adorns a shoddy-looking marquee. Interior theater continuous. The murmur of an excited crowd is silenced by the appearance of a single spotlight on the stage. James Cameron, dramatic actor, steps into the light. A collective gasp at the sight of his Nazi uniform. He takes a moment to bask in his accomplishment, looking into the darkened crowd with pride. This is it. This is his moment. No more slapstick. He takes a deep breath and a step forward. The crotch of his pants rip. There's a moment of awkward anticipatory silence and then a lone chuckle from the crowd. James is red in the face. His eyebrow twitches. He feels the rush of failure for a quick moment before collecting himself and noticing the desk to his right. He slowly limps over, trying to keep the rip at a minimum, and hobbles over to the desk. He gets behind it, hiding his tear, and gets back into character. Another deep breath. He begins his monologue and goes to sit down on the chair behind the desk. Crack! The chair collapses. Now, more chuckles from the crowd. He pops back up from behind the table and screams at the top of his lungs. 9! He slams his hand on the desk and it goes through it like cardboard, showing off his shoddy workmanship. He looks at his hand. There's a piece of wood stuck to it with a nail. He stares for a moment, trying to process the pain. Then... the crowd roars in laughter. They think they're watching a comedy. This will go down as the greatest slapstick performance of all time. As James frantically paces around the stage, trying to shake the wood off his hand, he slips on his own blood and does the splits in an awkward fashion. And in doing so, he exacerbates the tear in his pants. The audience loses it. He gets to his feet quickly, with only one pant leg remaining. It slides sheepishly down his ankle as the audience dies with laughter. Humiliated, James walks to the side stage and reaches for the doorknob of the exit. When he pulls the knob, it slides out with ease. The roar of the crowd is deafening. The walls and curtains of the set begin to shake. James turns his back to the audience as one of the giant set pieces topples onto the stage. He is perfectly framed by the window hole, unscathed save his nudity and blood-dripped clothes. The crowd is ecstatic, giving this legend a standing ovation. Cut 2. A spinning newspaper with the headline, James Karen gives performance of a lifetime. Signs deal with Paramount for movie adaptation. Interior, James's study, night. James sits in a wingback chair with a collection of sophisticated-looking books behind him. He's wearing an expensive silk robe, reading that newspaper. A quick beat, then he reaches for his tumbler to refill his bourbon. He drops the ice cube in, and it breaks through the bottom. He sighs once again. With a look of defeat, he stands and walks at a frame. We remain in the empty room. A gunshot is heard off camera. Then, another sigh.
And now, the recap.
All right, so that was the very first script written on the very first episode of the Blue Sky podcast. What you didn't hear is about 2 hours of Adeel and I riffing and actually writing things like interior, storefront. No, call it a blah, blah, blah. So we decided to spare you from that for now. But we figured we owe a recap section to kind of talk about what we did and what we didn't include based on the Blue Sky.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there were certain parts that, which it's a fun part of the writing process because it's like, yeah, you do the Blue Sky and then you write the script, and then as you're writing the script, you start like stumbling upon things. It's like you have a flashlight and you're walking forward into the script that you kind of vaguely know, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what if we took a right here instead of a left like we had planned? So that was kind of fun during the writing process. And this is sorry, when I say writing process, this is like the stuff that we did cut out, which we really debated, but we're like, it's an hour and a half of you guys just listening to us click and type shit.
Maybe someday you'll want to hear that, but
yeah.
we'll go easy on y'all for the first part.
Yeah, and yeah, so there was like my thing that we realized. One of the things that kind of what I'm going off of is like when we were writing the part that when he gets on stage, does he do a monologue and then something bad happens, or does this happen, or like how do we get to the point where he's on the stage and he's Mr. Dramatic and he's about to do his monologue, and then all of a sudden he falls back into the tropes of him being a slapstick genius.
And a lot of our discussion revolved around is he just gonna fall into the slapstick traps, or is this guy such a profound slapstick actor that his being exudes the idea of slapstick, that no matter what he does, he will fall, he'll slip on that banana peel, that ladder will fall on his head, the bucket will spill.
You know what it is? Actually, it's funny. It's nature versus nurture. We were trying to figure out, is the slapstick nature or nurture? Where is it like this weird innate ability he has where he opens his mouth and slapstick comes out, like obviously that's a metaphor. And the nurture is like, yeah, the universe kind of conspiring and making him be slapstick. So as we were writing, before we got to that scene, and that's what I love about writing sometimes, is you just start writing and you just like start walking into this forest and you have a flashlight and you don't know exactly what's ahead, but you're just going forward. And you have the blue sky gave us a vague idea of, okay, we know the beats, but we'll see, and we weren't, we both had not decided fully that this is how it's going to end or this was going to happen. But as we were writing, we got to the stage scene, and then John pointed out that we didn't even realize that in this joke or this montage of him kind of being like, you're fired, and kind of just doing everything himself, by being the person who makes by being hiring himself as a contractor to make the stage, James Karen is not a contractor. He's not someone who does that, right? Like, he's like an actor. So him making it automatically makes it a shoddy stage. So now it's again him trying. His intention is to be dramatic, but the universe is like, nope. Like, this is the obstacles in your course, and now you're gonna end up on a stage where, without even, I know you don't want to be slapstick, but you're gonna make the stage fall, and everyone's gonna laugh, and they're gonna love you for it, and you're gonna remain a slapstick genius.
And so by virtue of us just being silly and writing whatever, we created the confluence of nature and nurture. Not only does he exude slapstick and he can't make a step forward without doing something funny, the world has also become that because he built it. And it all just cascades together in a very nice little package.
Yeah. No,
Earlier that day. So what we have here, and I didn't even think of this, but with the costumer, he's the costumer, so it's going to be shit. It's going to rip.
All right. And then the sets,
and then this fucking thing's going to fall apart.
He built his own little slapstick thing because he's horrible at it. I enjoyed that when we got to that part, because that's one of my favorite things, man, when you kind of get to this place where you're like, oh, we haven't thought ahead of this, and now we've caught up to our writing, and now we have to figure out the ending, and it's like, it just comes to you because you've almost created a world, and I know it's a little cheesy to say this, but I really feel like when you're writing, you create a world that has a mind of its own, and it takes its own kind of like fate in its own hands, and you kind of get out of the way, and you're just like, oh, what else is going to happen? And the world is almost, the script is telling you what's next, Mm-hmm. And that's always fun, because even with the ending of this story, we were like, yeah, we have an idea, we're going to get there, but as we wrote, and the character grew and he evolved, it's almost like, oh, this would be the best way to end it, instead of what we kind of discussed, you know?
And as we're sort of building that airplane while it's taking off, we're discovering the rules of the world. And of course, we kind of walked in with some of those rules, given the references we had and whatnot for past slapstick movies. But the actual shape of it is literally taking form while the plane is taking off, which is also an exciting thing to see.
Like, we know we have to build an airplane. And that's our goal. Like, by the end of his session, we're gonna build a plane. But what's exciting is the plane might change. You know what I mean? It might turn into a jet, or it might turn to a different kind of, like a different model,
or a Wright brothers proto flying.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what plane you're gonna end up with.
And like any time you write a script, especially a first draft, the first draft is just, most of the time, in my experience, the characters very bluntly telling me how they feel, and you have to go back in and bury all that stuff in subtext. But for this purpose, we kind of wanted a cleaner script. There are parts that, could use a lot of love, but I'm not going back to that. But yeah, Dr. Nuts. Like, we tried to think a lot about what are these movies that James Karen has been in. What's the sort of,
what's his Austin Powers?
What's the canonical thing, the franchise that he comes from? And we thought about it forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and we just couldn't think of anything more than Dr. Nuts, Dr. Nuts 2, Extra Nuts, blah, blah, blah.
Well, Dr. Nuts was like the first thing you said, and they were like, yeah, this is good, let's think of something else. And then 5 to 10 minutes.
And then we blanked, but
just on nothing else.
But in retrospect, just applying that to things like Tropic Thunder that we talked a lot about, and Naked Gun and Airplane, the dumbest thing is the answer. So I think the right thing to do was to just call every movie Dr. Nuts. He's this huge, famous, unbelievably successful person for the Dr. Nuts franchise. And I think just by virtue of us not thinking forward, we still kind of nailed the genre by being dumb and not exploring further.
Oh, for sure. I mean, my favorite, we were talking about, again, the process where we cut out, but we were talking about Tropic Thunder quite a bit, and we were talking about Scorcher Earth, Ben Stiller's franchise in it, and that's literally the only one, besides Simple Jack, that they show in it that he's done. And I think that's the point of a film like this, where it's another thing that James Karen is so kind of down on, is the fact that that's it. It's not even that he's made multiple franchises, or that he's done other comedy films or slapstick films. It's the fact that he's Dr. Nuts, and that's all he is. All his fame, all his glory, all his money is from this massive fucking Fast and the Furious level franchise, where it's Dr. Nuts.
Exactly. And like to go back to what you were saying about, the rules of the genre or rules of the world that we're creating, in that world, something like Dr. Nuts would be Indiana Jones. It would be whatever, so it does play into that a lot. And we had a big conversation about what happens to him on stage. I know we already talked about, is he like just vehemently slapstick, like regardless of how much he desires not to be? Does the world affect him? Blah, blah, blah. But we kind of tried to play as many funny gags like tearing and smashing and falling and that, but we didn't want to go too overboard. But I think what we ended up with was a good sort of escalating series of blunders.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, man, like it's like when we were writing it too, I remember I kept limiting or like kind of being like, let's not do more slapstick. Let's do like these 3 or 4 things. But it's because, like, to me, what I enjoy about the script we wrote is it's not. I didn't want the slapstick to be, even though I know we picked the genre for slapstick. I wanted it to be a story that kept unfolding and like being kind of like ahead of the audience, where it's not we're just relying on like slapstick jokes to make it a slapstick short. It's like, it's really, if you I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm being deep and no one else, or I don't even know if you felt this way, but to me it's like, it's about a struggling artist who's trying to break out of his typecast. That's what it's really about to me, and that's what I like about it. And I think that that's the plot, is that's like, it's about the struggling artist and trying to break out, and then the story, the way you sell it, is like, slapstick funny film, watch it.
Yeah. Like, again, the characters in slapstick movies aren't like, I'm just a dummy. They're like, they have real goals and real desires with real human emotions.
Yeah.
And
that's what drives it. If it's just slapstick, then it's like, do you even want to watch it? But it's like, you see him go through this like personal journey, but also fall on his face.
Exactly.
That's what it's fun.
It's like hitting the gas on a race car, but like, what's the dumbest things you can do in that race car without killing yourself?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I just also like the fact that we picked slapstick, man, and then we ended up here is great. Like,
I was legit bummed when I pulled it out. I was like, why did you write that, dude? Why did you write that? I love slapstick, and I'm like, I've got a slapstick script out in the world right now, but I didn't want to write one for the first episode of this podcast, but I'm glad we did.
It really showed you could push, like, you could start from any prompt, right? Because like slapstick, same. When I heard it, I was like, fuck, are we gonna end up writing like Three Stooges right now? Which again would be fun to write, but I know we were kind of excited to write something, I don't know, broader or like bigger, but we stuck to slapstick and we just still gave it a heart, which was fun. And the ending, we talked for a while. I really wanted to. I know we added the sigh at the end where he doesn't shoot himself, but I at one point I pitched during the writing process that he shoots off camera. He points that you hear the gun go off and the blood hits the newspaper, so you see that he's blown his brains out. I love going dark for like the endings, but I think having the sigh, it was a good compromise, because it's like you get the fact that he's gonna kill himself, so the audience hears it and they kind of go, and then you hear. So it's like the perfect 1-2 punch.
For sure. And like just the idea of failure, I think was a huge,
that was
a huge part of his being. So like, he wants to be a dramatic actor and he's going to fail. So he should fail at pretty much everything else except what he's born to do. And that's be a slapstick performer. But you gave me a funny idea there. It'd be fun someday. Say we do get like a drama prompt. Like what's the dramatic Three Stooges,
Ooh.
Interior, jail cell night. Moe pokes Larry in the eye. Curly licks his finger and sticks it in Moe's ear.
I'd watch that. It's like the new Winnie the Pooh movie coming out.
Yeah.
It's like really dark. It's like Three Stooges.
And it's just like 3, and it's like 3 slash marks.
It's a slasher film. It's like they're all like killers. Oh, that's your drama.
This summer we're all Stooges.
That's great. That's the dramatic turn, though, right? It's like it's a movie about Three Stooges, but they're like escaped asylum patients, so they're all messed up in the head. Back in the day, they didn't really justify why the Three Stooges were who they were. Yeah. But in modern, like the retelling of the story, it's like, oh fuck, they were
actually
bipolar and
they were extremely at risk and like.
Yeah. And it gets darker, and the poking in the eye is like he literally takes his eye out, like, and you see it, the gore of it. You see the eye dripping out, and
those Mortal Kombat like finisher close-ups where you see the spine like fucking. That's funny. Do you think? And I think that all hinges around like the core of a character should always, in my opinion, should always be real and true. And then what you kind of do to flourish that and how they affect the world and how they go through the world is depending on the genre. But it should always start as that real human thing. But that also makes me think of another question, not to hog all the mic time here, but do you think, because we did start with a comedy script, it was really funny to write. We're both, improvisers and fans of comedy. Do you think, like, when we write a drama script, when we get a drama prompt, like, is it going to be hard to not be funny? Or, like, will it be funny, like, writing around that? Or, like, what do you think is going to happen?
I like drama too, though. Like, it's drama's a different kind of muscle, right? Like, you're writing to kind of progress this story and, like, tell this story. Well, here, okay, let me answer it with, like, what I was gonna actually ask you is, like, to me, even if I write drama, I like to still have moments of comedy in it. Like, my favorite my favorite drama films are the ones where there's moments where you're like, that's really funny. So do you feel that way? Do you feel like even a good drama needs a little comedy?
Tension and release, for sure. It's just like in a comedy, you would maybe ratchet up the tension with like an unbearably awkward situation or just some high stakes. Like, why are you saying that, dude? In a drama, it would be more like, holy fuck, someone's going to kill you. And then in both cases, the release would be the laugh,
Yeah.
So
well,
I'm just like, I don't often go to drama, so I'm really curious at how my muscles are gonna work in that context.
Oh yeah, no, that is a good point. I mean, I was just thinking right now. Actually, what's a good film that doesn't have comedy in it, but I still love, and I'm curious if we could write something like that. Have you ever seen Prisoners?
Yes,
With Jake Gyllenhaal,
Denis Villeneuve. Yeah, and Paul Dano.
Yeah. Such a good movie, but. I was actually listening to another podcast where they talk about that movie, and I was thinking about that where there's no moment where it's even light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's such a dark and I feel like a lot of Denis films are like that. Even have you seen? I'm gonna butcher it because it's in French, but Incendies.
No.
Oh, buddy.
I've heard a bunch of it.
Oh, buddy. But yeah, now that I actually think about it, none of his films really, like even Arrival or anything, they don't really have that light tone that I love.
Arrival is hilarious.
You didn't laugh when the aliens were like doing that language thing?
They're little smoky guys. They're so cute and dumb.
I don't know. Pat on the head. Arrival is his comedy.
Yeah.
Now that I really think of it, because like again, my like Scorsese, Tarantino, Wes Anderson, even Fincher, like they find ways to put a little like you kind of go like a little bit in the movie, in moments, sometimes Tarantino and Scorsese, sometimes I feel like they're making comedies fully. Well, I guess Wolf of Wall Street was even categorized as a comedy where you're like, this is drama, but you're laughing your ass off. And I love that. But Denis, I guess, doesn't do that, and I still love him. So I guess not all dramas need to have a little comedy, but I would like to do that.
Yeah. There were some parts in Dune where like that fucking weird boss guy was like floating up to the ceiling and shit. I thought were kind of funny.
I don't think he was trying to be funny though.
But that's just my sick and twisted world perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have another question on the board here. What did we forget? I think we talked about the saws and ladders. We had a bit of saw and ladder talk in the Wikipedia article early on. We did not include those because we forgot them, but I think we made okay.
You mean like what did we forget from the blue sky to the script?
or anything that you wish we had have done that we did not do? Man,
with short films, I'm always feeling like, it's just this feeling of I wish we could write more scenes, like even when we were writing, we how many times did we during the writing process be 2 pages into a scene and be like, okay, we gotta shave a whole page off because this is a short film. Because you're the same way, I think, where I do love dialogue and I love like scenes that are like longer so you can have fun with them and really add more like flourishes. But that's more of a feature kind of thing. And again, some shorts can be long. I'm right now I have a short I wrote that's like 21 pages, which you could do that. But I think the point of this podcast at least is like, let's do 5-page scripts. That's what we told each other. And that was the thing where there were moments where I was like, fuck man, I wish we could write like a whole series of scenes that kind of him interacting with people that maybe he's like girlfriend or this or that, and really add more character development
for sure. But, and it's funny because at the beginning of this I said we both work in commercials, so we're limited to 15, 30, sometimes 6-second spots, so we want to exercise our expansive muscles, but a podcast can't be 6 hours long, so we're not going to write a first draft of the feature in that. Not only are we not going to write the first draft of the feature in that time, we need to be economical. So we're being just a little less economical than normal.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you think about this? Like, I really like, as much as a creative, you're like, oh man, I want no limitations. I want to be able to write whatever I want and do whatever I want. But honestly, limitations have helped me be better at my job and at being creative so many times, because you have a sandbox that you're playing in, right? Otherwise, if you have too much freedom, it's almost like what's that word? Having too much freedom is like having too much rope
Yes.
to hang yourself with. You kind of just get too self-indulgent, or you get too like, out there, and you kind of lose sight of what the purpose of the script was.
For sure. And someone said that like limitation is the mother of invention or some shit. That's like probably 4 different people. Let's say it was Philip Seymour Hoffman, Chris Nolan, and Angela Bassett. All 3 of them.
I think Chris Pratt said it.
Oh, Chris Pratt.
He doesn't belong on that list, but
Chris Pratt was in the movie about the coining of that.
Yes.
That quote, but
yes, you're making that up, right?
I'm totally I'm just
I was gonna be like, I want to watch this movie now. What movie was this? No, I think limitation helps. And even this, like, again, like, I wish we wrote more scenes, but listening to the short script again, and it's a first draft. So if we had a chance to make a second and third, I usually like to go a couple drafts before it's final, like at least 4 to 5 drafts minimum. It would, I think, be even more. It would be better, right? But what it is right now, and the limitations we had of like, let's get to our goal was, let's get to the scene on the stage where like that climax or whatever happens quicker. Like we kept going like, let's shave some of this off, so we can get to the stage quicker. And I think that was the right thing to do, because that you want to see the story in a really compact way. And I think we got the intro where you see where he's like in his comfort zone. He's a dramatic actor. Then you see the troubles he goes through to change his fate. Then he finally gets there and he's like, this is the moment. And then he blows it, or the world just doesn't take him seriously, whatever like our climax was. And then we go back into the end, and it's a full circle. He's back to James Karen, the slapstick genius, and he's fucking miserable.
Maybe possibly even more James Karen. He's the most James Karen that James Karen has ever been.
The world is like, oh,
so,
man.
Not only did he fail at becoming a dramatic actor, he succeeded in becoming an even better slapstick actor. So.
Yeah. And you know how they say, like, by the end of the script, like, you obviously don't want to end up in the exact same place. Or sometimes you do. Some films do that, but you don't want to end up in the same place. But in a funny way, he did grow. Not only that he became a slapstick genius, he wanted to get out of the Dr. Nuts shadow, get out from underneath the Dr. Nuts shadow, and he ended up in a new under a new shadow. But again, it's a different shadow. It's a bigger shadow, and it's a self-written shadow.
In a much, much darker shadow than the shadow that preceded.
Yeah, and Dr. Nuts turns into Rise and Fall of Adolf. Yeah. But that was kind of cool to, and again, like that limitation of us being like, let's keep moving this train along, let's get there. I think it allows if this was to be made into a short film, I'd watch it, and within like again 5 minutes, I'd be like, oh wow, I got to see his entire arc.
In a quote that I can attribute to the correct person, Tom Petty said, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus."
Ooh, is that a song?
It's
just a quote?
It's just a quote from a documentary, but I did use it in a song from one of my old bands.
Oh shit!
And the song was about Tom Petty, but we don't need to talk about my
and insert song here. What is it? Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's good. Yeah. It's good especially for writing a short film.
Because sometimes you get in your head, and I'll just be writing, and I'm like, I don't know where to go next. Just move the story along. If you just do that, you'll be fine. Sometimes I get in my head because I'm like, how does this scene end? Oh my God. It's like the first draft, especially, just your goal is to get to the end. Mm-hmm. And along the way, you just fill in these scenes with all the ideas you have, and then you come back and you clean it up.
Yep. Also known as the vomit pass.
Yes.
Where you just spew all your earlier meals onto the page and sort through them later.
Could we call it the diarrhea pass or no?
We could, but... In conclusion.
Oh, look at that.
Sweet.
We wrote a fucking 5-page script. It's a first draft, and I think it's a great first draft, and I think that there's still so much we can fuck with. Like, think about it. If we had to do a second draft for this, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Not that we're ever gonna, but...
Yeah, for sure.
But you know what I mean? That's good job, man. Hey.
So we did it. We employed the principles that we think we said we were going to. we took that prompt and made it into a passable short slapstick script.
I'm excited because like that was fun. Like it's such a good exercise in just creativity. Like just being forced to write that right now.
Yeah.
Being put on the spot. I'm like, that's amazing. So I'm excited like how many scripts we're gonna churn out.
Fucking put some stuff in a bowl. Pull the word out. Make shit happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Who would think a slapstick comedy would lead us to write this? So you never know. You just need a prompt.
Yeah.
It all starts with a prompt.
And then you get Hitler. The Blue Sky Podcast is produced by Adeel Shamsi and Jono Hunter, edited by Justin Stevenson, and this voiceover was recorded by Kevin Brown. If you have an idea for a prompt, email us at theblueskypodcast@gmail.com or DM us at the Blue Sky Podcast on Instagram. The Blue Sky Podcast is an independent show, so please like and subscribe and tell your friends. Please.